I know. It is time.
All right, it is time. Everyone want to grab their seats? Hey, everyone! Welcome to Chai Hack Night! Woo! This is episode 194. It's a Chicago's place to build, share, and learn about civic tech. Tonight we have, I would say, one of the anchor institutions of civic technology, Code for America. Jen Pahlka is here. She founded that and runs that organization. So we'll be hearing all about Code for America a little bit from her. Actually, I want to do this. Have you heard of Code for America before? Yeah. Okay. Everybody knows about them. Well, you're going to learn a lot. Yeah. You can leave. So before we get to Jen, we always have a few things we like to do on the agenda. Number one, we're all going to introduce ourselves. I know it's a lot of people in this room, but that's the best part. We're all here together. So we're all going to quickly say our name and what we're all about. Then after that, we have an open floor for announcements. So this thing you're looking at behind me is a Google Doc that anyone can edit. You can get to this document by going to http://chaihacknight.org and clicking on this little agenda thing here. Did we tweet it out yet? If we haven't tweeted it out yet, I will as well. We also have a hashtag for this event if you're on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, get that open now. I'll be asking you to use it in a little bit for a special civic engagement exercise. But yes, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we have the Chai Hack Night hashtag. Anything else before we get to introductions?
Yes. So the restrooms are down this hall and to the left.
To the right.
Or to the right.
Go to the left.
We have Braintree has been kind enough to offer this space, the conference rooms along this side, and the cafeteria. The rest of the space is their private working space, so stay away from that. You're free to take 2 drinks out of the fridge, but not the alcohol. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a question and answer session. Please remember that it's a question and answer session, not a question and answer and long commentary session. If you take too long commenting without getting to a question, I will start clapping, and that's your signal to and let somebody else ask questions.
And cool. All right. Well, then we'll get to the introductions. I'll start. I'm Derek Eater. I run this organization with Christopher here, and I also have a civic tech company called DataMade. Where we build civic tech projects on a consulting basis.
My name is Christopher Whitaker. I am part of Code for America's Brigade team.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Day and I'm at Developer Academy. Hi, my name is Eileen and I'm a developer.
I'm Jennifer, you're about to hear from me.
I'm Emily, I'm a GIS analyst.
I'm Nate, I do community engagement stuff.
I'm Kate, I'm back in the
I'm Matt, I'm an engineer here at Braintree.
Hello everybody, my name is Fabian Elliott. I'm the founder at Black Tech Mecca.
I'm Bill Allen, I'm a software developer and agile coach.
My name is Stephen Vance, I'm a transportation reporter at Street Blog Chicago.
Cole Wilden, I'm a software developer. I'm good, actually.
My name's Alicia.
I'm student IED.
I'm Alexis, I do urban planning.
I'm Forrest, I'm a partner in data.
I'm John, student Chicago.
I'm Kevin, the Microsoft Civic Tech Club, also student at Chicago.
I'm Angela, also a student.
Hi, I'm Chris Brock. I'm a software engineer.
Steve Edgar, I'm kind of ADD, so I like a lot of things.
My name's Matt Wilson. I'm a software engineer. Andy Pate, I'm working on software for UK in Chicago.
Daniel Cole, I'm interested in public health, specifically sexual health and suicide prevention.
I'm Karina, I'm a grad student at Pahlka.
Co-focal partner at Open Strategies and former employee of Plant Speaker.
Lauren, grad student at Chicago.
Tom, also a grad student at Chicago.
I'm Jay, I'm an aerospace engineer studying data science.
My name's Renee, I'm a topic facilitator.
My name's Hillel, I once fell off a boat.
Sam, Joel, I'm a public information officer for the Cook County Bureau of Technology.
Spencer, marketing research, and analytics consultant.
Matt, I'm an IT consultant.
I'm a software developer.
Cole, I'm a technology license manager at the University of Chicago.
My name's Morgan, and I'm a grad student in Michigan and working at
Okay, I'm Tim, I'm an editor.
I'm Melanie, I work at a think tank in Northwestern.
I'm Brian Burrow, software developer. Daniel Little, neuroscience, Chicago.
I'm Chris, I'm the development assistant on the
My name's Kevin, I'm a web developer.
I'm the Dalsu, I'm a grad student as well.
I'm Emily, I work on data analysis.
I'm Nick, I'm an attorney, I work for the state of Illinois.
I'm Michael, I'm a public policy analyst.
I'm Chris Hagan, I'm a reporter at WB.
I'm Mark Warmore, I'm a special project manager for the Illinois State Controller.
I'm Kevin Rose, I'm a data scientist.
I'm Dylan, I'm a biomedical engineer. I'm William, I'm a developer.
Adam, as a analyst.
I'm Bruno, I'm a developer. Jam, I'm co-founder of the company called 360 Data Science.
I'm Carly, I'm a technical writer. I once lived in
That's right, I do. Not see how you feel it.
I'm Claire, and I'm an interaction designer at the University of Chicago.
I'm Mark, I'm a product manager and I'm a programmer.
I'm Dane, I'm a software developer.
I'm Max, I'm a web developer.
Will, I'm a web developer. I'm Dan, student at Redwood.
I'm Jay Bassel, I lead the Tutor Metro Institute.
My name is Sam, I'm with Disability Advocates.
I'm Emily, I'm a student at UIC. I'm Jack, I'm student at UIC.
Tim, also student at UIC.
Case, student at USC.
James, student at UIC.
I'm Dick Grubcup, I teach entrepreneurship at Illinois Tech. I got a couple of you guys here, so more IIT people.
I'm living with Orange Cultural Education Biologics.
My name is Manish, student at Illinois Tech. Go on.
I'm Elle, I'm in community development.
Teacher and
I'm Andy, I'm from the computer science department at Chicago Public Schools. I'm Paul.
I'm Rebecca, I'm a grad student at Northwestern.
I'm Chris, contract relations.
Ada, education game designer.
Kim, youth media outreach program.
I'm Lisa, I work at Midwood Challenges.
we miss anybody? Everyone over there said hi?
I'm Martin. I'm a transportation planner.
Cool, that's everyone? All right, wonderful. We're on the word cam here. So did someone gonna go?
Oh, I'm Melissa, I'm a grad student.
I'm Cece, I work for nonprofit, called Stand for America.
Cool. All right. Excellent to see everybody. Whoa, it's Christopher. It's Christopher's shirt. There we go. So we're gonna move on to announcements. So like I said, there's this document that we have. Anybody, if you have an announcement, you can add it to that. We'll go through that list. But if you don't have a computer, you can just raise your hand and we'll call them. So we kind of break it into 3 different categories. We have just general announcements, we have events, and we have job openings. So we'll start with the, do you need to get that connected? There we go. We'll start with the general announcements first. What do we got here? Okay. Yeah, so if you were here last week, or the last couple weeks, we've got this open data pledge that we put together to get the clerk of the circuit court candidates and also the state's attorney for the county to sign a pledge committing their office to open data for the very first time. So we have these two pledges out there. We've gotten Kim Fox and Donna Moore to both sign for the clerk of the circuit court, for the state's attorney. And then we got Jacob Meister to sign for the clerk of the circuit court. So what we're trying to do now is pressure the other, specifically the incumbent candidates to sign this pledge. So remember how I asked if you had Twitter to keep that open? We would like to use the power of all of the people in this room. If you care about open data, care about trying to make a change at the local level about making data more open and available from these 2 very important offices that deal with criminal cases, dealing with the entire county, then this is an opportunity for you to help just push that along. So what we're trying to do is actually tweet at these individual candidates, specifically Anita Alvarez, who's the current state's attorney, and also Michelle Harris. So I think at this point, according to recent intelligence that I got from Tracy Stiska, that it's unclear if Alderman Harris, that's her Twitter handle, if she's actually running for clerk of the circuit court. It's unclear. She has no campaign website. So I'm not sure how important it is to her to sign this thing. But Alvarez is obviously running. She is the current state's attorney, and she is really she's actually the last Democratic candidate that has not yet signed the pledge. So if you would like to open up Twitter, and you can get to this document, again, by going to chahacknet.org. We have a tweet that we already pre-populated for you. So hey, at SA Anita Alvarez, sign this open data pledge, and then link to the blog post that we have that has the pledge on it. So if you would like to please I'll give you a couple seconds if you'd like to do that. We'll try to get as many people as we possibly can to help push this along. The idea is to sort of publicly show how many people care about this by voicing that on Twitter. So I'll give you just sing the Jeopardy song.
See, Derek is not nearly as excited about this as he needs to be.
Oh, okay. You want to amp me up? All right.
There's 100 people in the room. Let's see. I got mine right here. It's all framed up, ready to go. All I have to do is hit enter. Get your Twitter out now. Get your phones out now. Come on.
You're my hype man. This is great. I love it.
Where is it? Can we
Scroll up a little bit.
Hey, at SA Anita Alvarez, all one word. Sign the open data pledge. That's all you need. A lot of people are going to be doing the other HTML that's in there, but get it out right now. Let's try to get 70 tweets out to Anita Alvarez right now.
That'd be pretty cool. So please do that, and thank you if you've already done it. We'll move on to the next set of announcements. This was something I just saw today. Can you click on that article, the 3 things about Chicago's civic tech scene? This is great. I just saw this today. There's a publication called Technically. They're based out of Philadelphia, and they write a lot about technology and government. and they talked about how things you should know and things that are great about the Chicago tech scene. And if you scroll down to reason number 3, it's accessible. And right here we are mentioned. So that's something that I personally am trying to continue to help make us more accessible. I think we've done a pretty decent job of it considering all the people that are here. So it's nice to be recognized for that, but I think we could still do better. But still, it's nice to see that written as like literally like one of the first reasons that people cite for Chicago being accessible. Yay! Another one was we don't have to open all of these, but if you're interested, there's been a sort of a series of blog posts that a couple people, Mark Head, who's the former chief data officer for the city of Philadelphia, Andrew Nicklin, who used to be, I think, the chief data officer for the state of New York, and now works at I forget where, the Center for Data Excellence, and then Steve Spiker over in Open Oakland, have all written some sort of, I'd say, pretty critical articles about like how like the limitations of actually making lasting, impacting change on government and on society as a whole through voluntary civic hacking. So like what this is. So there's some real like, hard like questions that they raise about things that haven't worked out and things that are really hard about it. So I think it's worthwhile. I mean, I personally am in this to try to make my city a better place to live in. I think technology is a wonderful way to do that. It's a very powerful way to leverage technology to do that. But there's really limitations to what you can do with volunteer effort, right? So if you're interested in that stuff at all, these are 3 really good blog posts to kind of see what's going on in other cities outside Chicago. There's a question here. How do I get a Chai Hacknet hoodie? We sold out, and I'm gonna order some more, so you have to wait. But yes, you can. They'll be for sale soon. Moving on, law school transparency. Is anybody here announce that? Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. So I'm helping out the executive director of Calvin Andrews, who's part of law school transparency, and I'm working on a grant funding to become executives, and so we're looking for data researcher and technologists.
Excellent, thank you. Scrolling down, moving on to moving on to events. Chai Ladies Hack. Anybody here from that? I think that was yeah. I think she couldn't be here, but yeah, Lorena.
I can speak
Oh
to
yeah,
that.
you know about it, please.
Yeah, there's several women tech groups here in Chicago that are putting on a ladies hackathon for women and non-binary folk to participate, and so it's pretty beginner friendly, and it's going to be a great time. There's like 6 different organizations participating, and they're working on civic focused and nonprofit focused projects.
Great. That's April 2nd. It looks like April 2nd. Yep. Great. That's a Saturday.
Yeah, there's an install fest and kind of an introduction on Friday. It's pretty much always Saturday.
Okay. Cool. Cook County Technology Outlook 2016
is the most exciting thing you're going to hear about tonight. But we're having a procurement event. If you're interested in producing some technology for us, you can find out what we're working on in 2016
and beyond. Thank you, Joe. Flourish 2016. Anybody here from Flourish? I can speak a little bit about this. It's an open source conference. They've been having them in Chicago for about 5 years now, I think. And Chicago actually is like the starting place for a lot of amazing open source technologies. Did you know that Ruby on Rails was started here in Chicago? Did you know that Django, another open source content management system framework, that's a really boring way to say it, Django was invented here? So there's a lot of overlap. If you're new to this space, there's a lot of overlap between open source and civic technology, as in those things usually go hand in hand. So I'll be speaking at this, talking about exactly civic technology and open source if you want to go. But yeah, it's a very cool event down at UIC on April 1st and 2nd. Coder Dojo Chicago. Anybody here from that?
Yeah. So Coder Dojo Chicago. It's a nonprofit organization that offers free courses to youth 7 to 17. Currently, we have introductory classes in HTML, CSS, and they're rolling out the JavaScript class. Lots of ways that we could use volunteers, mentors, grant writing, stuff like that. There's actually an event coming up this Friday for both current volunteers, but also for new volunteers at that Brooklyn Boulders, rock climbing gym. Won't be able to rock climb because there's alcohol, but you will get a day pass. So yeah, check it out. And
Excellent, thank you. Girl Development Chicago.
Hi. So Real Development Chicago is a local group here. We offer affordable classes for women, and we just open up spots for intro jobs for jobs. So it's pretty easy to get.
Excellent, thank you. That's it for the events. Jobs, we got 2 of them up here, 2 sets. One's CTA is hiring project manager for transportation analytics. And then Mozilla seems to have about 3 positions open. Is Robert here? Anybody from Mozilla here? Talk about that? Okay. So we got links for all those things if you want to check those out. Okay, that's it for the events we have on this document. If you have anything you'd like to share with the group, you can raise your hand now. Cool.
Going once.
All right. Well then, Jen, do you want to come up here?
Well,
Yeah, so Jen Pahlka. Oh, did you want to introduce her, Christopher? Christopher, I'm going to introduce Christopher, who's going to introduce Jen. Here's Christopher Whitaker.
So my first introduction to Code for America was as a government employee at the state of Illinois, working in an unemployment office during the recession. My system was from the 70s. This did not go well. And out of that frustration, I started looking for groups of people that were doing something about it. And just so happened that Chicago was just named one of the fellowship cities. And so I started following what they're doing and going, oh my God, this is fantastic. And I was actually invited to the second Code for America Summit to be one of the first brigade captains. And it was sort of an experience of walking through the desert for years and years and years, and then falling into the ocean with a whole lot of people that are very excited and very passionate about innovating government and telling me they want my help. And so I now work for Code for America, and it has been an organization that has significantly changed my life. And with that, I want to thank Jen Pahlka for starting the whole thing and introduce Jen Pahlka.
give me a hand. Sorry, guys. Yeah, is it on now?
It was on.
It was on, and I turned it off. Sorry. My bad. Is it on now?
It is on.
Okay, great. Sorry. Okay. All right. So welcome. You're all going to jump into the ocean today. I'm going to talk super fast because Derek and Chris have convinced me that you'd rather know more about what's going on substantively at Code for America than sort of all the meta stuff. So forgive me if this is pretty fast. The one thing I will clarify is does people here know what the fellowship is? It sounds like a weird cult when Chris talked about it. Raise your hand if you know what a Code for America fellowship is. Okay, so really briefly, this is a service year program. It's a sort of the center of what we do, but not all of what we do. We get developers, designers, product managers, mid-career, average age is 30, to come do a year of service. And we put them in teams of 3 folks who work with a local government to tackle a problem using technology, but primarily taking a user-centered, data-driven, and iterative approach to that problem instead of the sort of long planning cycles that you typically see in government, which were the source of Chris's pain, I think, at the state of Illinois. I'm just going to turn the timer on so I know how far we're going. So our vision is that government can work for the people and by the people in the 21st century. And so hopefully you guys know a little bit about the Brigade program, which is how we help organize communities around the country who can't take a year off to do this, but do want to do this on a casual basis. Over the past couple of years, we've really decided to focus on government services, government and the delivery of government services through technology, or government programs through technology. And so the one framing piece I'm going to provide to you guys before I get right into the documents is some statements borrowed from Tom Loosemore, who's part of the Government Digital Service in the UK, who's done this very, very well. And I think that they're just provocative statements and part of how we translate our vision these days. Government services should be so good they're better than what we use at home, better than previously imaginable. They should be able to work the first time, usually in real time. We should be able to set up new government services in weeks and run them at a fraction of today's costs. We need government officials to be able to see if their policy is working within, as it was intended, within days or weeks, not decades. We're far from that now, but we all have to believe, if you're going to jump into the ocean with me today, if you're going to believe that this is possible within the next couple of years, that we can do this. And if we do this, we can create services where those on the front line can help the people who need the help most. That's what government's supposed to do, or at least part of what government is supposed to do, and our services need to be architected so that we can actually do that. So what I'm going to spend the 13 and a half minutes I have left is like this, as fast as I possibly can, telling you about the projects that Code for America Fellows and Code for America staff are doing this year. And please know that this is a tiny section of what's happening in our entire network. The brigades are doing thousands of other really interesting projects. I only have 15 minutes. So we had 6 city partners this year. We actually did a few fewer because we are putting a bunch of our resources into projects that already came out that we want to advance and take to other cities. So it's 6 this year, and we have 18 fellows, so they're teams of 3. And we're focusing in 3 areas. The first area is safety and justice. We have a team, a wonderful team in Salt Lake County, Utah, excuse me. And what they're really doing is helping folks who have just come out of incarceration meet the terms of their probation. So about 10% of people don't show up for their court date, boom, you're back in jail. 20% of people don't take advantage of the treatments that have been prescribed to them, the social services, which tends to put them back in jail. And this costs taxpayers a bunch of money, and it's terrible social outcomes. So we're using text messaging and other ways of communicating with them to remind them, you know, you're supposed to be in court today. You're supposed to be at this treatment. You're supposed to, you know, here's a paperwork that you need to fill out, trying to essentially reduce rearrest and recidivism. We have another team in Seattle, Washington, who is building off of a fantastic program they have there called LEAD, which basically says when we encounter a mentally ill homeless person on the street, it's very easy for that person to end up in jail. That's a terrible outcome. We should be putting those folks into services they need, and very, very often they are already in care, already part of a caseworker's load, and instead of incarcerating them, we're diverting them to the services that they need. And the police officers, who are the front lines of the encounters with folks who really need care, not incarceration, need to have data available to them at that moment to know where to take them and they can't go back to the office and look something up over a long period of time. So it's really the implementation piece of a really excellent policy around not criminalizing homelessness and mental illness. And we're really excited about the team there. I just was visiting them. These fellows get to do things like ride-alongs with the police, and they're actually part of these encounters, and they're documenting what actually happens when you encounter these folks so that they really can build technology that's very deeply situated in this actual context that will actually work, and that's a big part of it. So hearing their stories, if I had more time, I would tell you a little bit about the ride-alongs and the encounters. But what you should understand is that if you're ever considering doing the program, which you should, a lot of fellows talk about that experience getting deeply into social services and criminal justice system in our country as by far the most value that they get out of it. It's an experience that many of us won't have, and it really helps you understand how our society works and the things that need to change in it. This is a couple of the fellows watching the dispatch in the police department. I didn't get a picture of the ride-alongs. We have 2 fellowship teams working on economic development. The first one is in New Orleans, where the team there is really looking at the truly enormous funds that flow from our federal government down to our states and our counties and to our cities for workforce development training. We all know the economy is changing dramatically. The kinds of jobs that are available to people and the kinds of jobs that people can raise a family on are not the ones that we are necessarily spending our workforce training dollars on. So people are often getting assistance from the government to get trained in things like VCR repair. Well, that's not going to do you much good. How can we make those workforce training dollars actually match? How do we know that these policies are actually working? How can we match people up with these things? And how can we understand the ways in which people are actually qualified for jobs but don't get them. So we've done some data analysis, and in fact, the Markle Foundation, who's our sponsor for this project, has done a bunch about things like job postings that say bachelor's degree required. Bachelor's degree may not be really required to do the work, and this is a sort of implicit bias. So doing some work on matching people to jobs in a way that makes a lot more sense. In Long Beach, California, the work is around streamlining business permitting. They are one of the many cities that got a grant from the Small Business Administration to do what's called Startup in a Day. I think some of that work happened in Chicago a couple of years ago, but making it a lot easier to comply with all the requirements if you're starting or a new business or even just trying to keep one open. We've got 2 projects in what we call our Healthy Communities space. And in New York, we're really supporting these caseworkers to use data across departments to better access city services. So it's really based in the schools, and it's really around the concept that, you know, if you've got a kid in the school who needs some sort of support, this earlier you get it to that kid, the much better off you're going to be, much better. You're going to spend a lot less on that kid if you get them those services early. But so often we're not able to target these kids and get them the services they need. We make it very difficult. So they're actually taking an existing program again and putting it into mobile apps that will actually work in the field. Those fellows, by the way, they all do very interesting user needs discovery in the field again. There's something called Code Blue, which is when it goes below freezing in New York, the social workers go out overnight. So they went out with the social workers from midnight to 8 a.m., going to people in need and trying to help them. So they're trying to understand how technology can help that process better. Again, an experience that we should probably all have. And in Kansas City, we're working on meeting immunization requirements for school-aged children. I won't go into it, but it's one of these stories of like the way it works is really not the right way it should work, but you've got parents in the beginning of the school year standing in line for hours to get their kids' immunization records. The records aren't up to date. We never know which kids in the school really are immunized and which ones aren't. And this is a problem that's pretty easily solved through process and technology. So I mentioned that we have a bunch of other projects that are going on, and I want to breeze through them. Some of these are simply projects that we did through the fellowship in previous years where folks said to us, hey, why'd you just do it for one city? And why is that just going to now be there? Why can't we take this to other cities? We worked with Indianapolis last year on a connector to their police records system that pulls out data around officer complaints, use of force, and officer-involved shootings. And there's a very robust data portal that sort of explains this data. This is very important, obviously, for many police forces. I hope that it comes to Chicago. If the city or county uses IA Pro, which is a common records management system in police officers, this tool that we created called Comport will pull that data out and display it semi-automatically, but it makes it a lot easier to display this data and offer it up to the public. We have a population management dashboard that was built for the Louisville jail that's spread sort of organically through the miracle of open source software to the city of Denver, and we're working in the coming year to take that to 5 more cities. I should have mentioned there on Comport, this open data thing, we've got, I think 5 cities, we're about to announce the 5 cities that are going to get their free deployment of Comport, and then we'll hope that it spreads to the rest of the country. So all of these are in the state of like proven to work somewhere. And in case of this jail management dashboard, they literally did not know how many folks were in the jail at the time. Lauren, you can correct me if I get all the data wrong. But since they implemented this, they have not had an overcrowded day, or at least not since we've talked to them, which has been a little while. But when you don't know how many people you have in and you have people coming at you, you have a continually overcrowded jail, which is not what we want. So that's been a very successful project that will go to many other places. I put this in here because we're talking about, we're about to talk about some more projects in the health and human services field. This one came out of our work on food stamps, which I'm going to show you in a minute, because the folks in the California State Department of Social Services asked us to write up some papers, essentially, on the barriers to adoption of food assistance in California. And as a side thing, they asked us to look at a procurement that they had coming out for the child welfare system. I noticed there was a procurement meetup. I'd love to come to that. I'm sorry I won't be in town. This procurement, when we looked at it, what all the watermarks of a failed large government IT project. I took a year off from Code for America and went to work in the White House during the time of healthcare.gov. So that feels very fresh and raw to me, even 2 years later. This project looked like that with even more signs of failure ahead. It was going to go out as a $600 million initial bid, very waterfall, 7 modules of software all delivered all at once over the course of 6 years. Very long story here, but one I will dwell on a little bit because I think it's so powerful and important. But we were able to change that procurement. We were able to help that team in California take a different path. I'll tell you a little bit about that, but before I just want to say, I think the reason we were able to get a great alignment around this project is that there are 475,000 cases of abuse and neglect, or reported cases of abuse and neglect in the state of California every year. And the fact that the system that the social workers use and that the program managers use to try to analyze the data, is been out of compliance with federal standards for many years. Essentially, there is almost no usable software for social workers in the state of California is not okay. And I think we were able to make it clear that if this project went forward, we would probably wait 6 years to find out that in fact it didn't work and we had to start over again. And it could be 10 or 12 years before social workers had the tools that they need to do their job to take care of kids in California. It definitely helps to work on projects where the stakes are really high. So essentially, we, in the course of about 8 weeks, helped them take an agile, modular, iterative approach, and they completely changed what the procurement looked like. Instead of all 7 modules delivered in 6 years, it's actually, says 6, it's actually broken up into 7 modules. So we started by releasing an RFP just for an API to wrap around the mainframe, and then the first module that will be delivered is the case management module, and there's obvious reasons why that. This, I don't have a slide in here, but it also, you guys have Pivotal in this building. The request for proposal actually specifies that the vendor must use Pivotal Tracker, must talk about user stories, must demonstrate an ability to understand and translate user needs into features rather than an ability to comply with a very large set of documents that describe requirements. And we think that that's going to be really important in getting a system that actually works for California. And for those open source fans and leaders in the audience, we were able to get language, we helped them write language which specifies that commodity open source components and tools will be used when they're available. New source code will be made open and reusable and published with an appropriate license. They intend to release the entire project as an open source product when it's done, and I think this could really change the game for certainly child welfare systems, and of course every state needs one. But it was really interesting when we were in this meeting where we sort of convinced them to take this approach. An unnamed government official said, "We'll do this, but only if this can be the new way we do everything." And I think that speaks to how much folks really realize the old way doesn't work. They just needed a different path. They needed to see that there was an alternative, and that the alternative was not, it certainly has risk in it, but it's not as risky as something that will fail. Amazing team came in the state of California came together to make this happen. I mean, we'll certainly take some of the credit for pushing the envelope on it and helping, but they had enormous courage to throw out a process that they'd been working on for 3 years and redo it in the course of 8 weeks. Oh, okay, I'm at time. So really quickly, that work came about because of our work on food stamps. So this is how you apply for food assistance in the state of California. It goes on and on and on. It's 50 screens, a couple hundred questions. Some of the questions are frankly crazy. we've been working on better ways to apply for food stamps. Here's a sample. Works on a mobile phone and a tablet. Just ask a few questions, gets you signed up really quickly. Of course, we're signing you up on the back end, but for the user experience, it's dramatically better and dramatically different. We follow up with all the folks that apply for food stamps through our interface and find out what happens to them afterwards. A lot of them, sure, we got you applied, but then they called you for your interview and they called you at a certain time, but they sent you a letter about that interview, and that letter came after the date of the interview, so you missed it. So we find those things out. We found out that on the online form, you were supposed to be able to upload documents, but when you attached a document and hit submit, it just went into thin air. So this is a way on your mobile phone that you can actually attach a picture of your driver's license or whatever documentation you're trying to provide and actually upload it and actually have it comply. So we've been using, of course, the build, measure, and learn sort of paradigm. This is outdated, but we're tracking all of these folks through the system and playing back to our county partners in California. This is not just where your technology fails, but where your process fails, and people are not getting the benefits that they need. I'll get off my soapbox about benefits, but in California, we're the 49th out of 50 states in adoption of this program by eligible people. And it's not because we're evil conspiracists who are trying to keep people off the benefits. It's just that the thing's so complicated that most people try to get on it and then they can't. So we're helping California move that number up. The only state with lower enrollment rates is Wyoming, which is like 370,000 people. So what we're really trying to do is get in a virtuous cycle with governments where we build trust with them by doing these projects. We then, in this case at least, we built an alternate app, collected data from the users, helped that data, played that data back to our partners so that they could debug their operations. And in many times now, that's actually resulting in policy changes, which I won't go into right now. I hope there's other projects that are going on, many others. That's sort of a smattering of them that I'm personally pretty excited about right now. But I will end with an offer again to jump into the ocean. So there are a million ways that you can get involved with this work. It sounds like everyone's already involved with civic tech in some way here, but whether you've got an hour to work on open issues on our civic tech issue finder, or a night a week to come to Hack Night and Brigade meetings, that's great. If you want to give a year, if you're in a private sector job or in a public sector job, and you've got a chance to take a year out and really dive into this stuff, we'll be recruiting again for the Code for America Fellowship in the next couple of months. Part of my work at the White House was on the Presidential Innovation Fellows, which is another great opportunity. And I always encourage fantastic folks who care about their fellow citizens, their fellow human beings, to have great impact by working in government. And that's it. And I did it in a few minutes, or like 16. Yes.
When you showed the picture of the California Department of Health and Human Services, or whatever department was in charge of the child welfare system,
yeah,
you said they deserve
not
a
this
lot
one.
of credit for throwing away what they had worked on for 3 years. You're being serious, right? Like they.
I am.
Okay.
What part was confusing?
How long did it take you to redesign the RFP?
So what happened was they had been in a very traditional government procurement process, which involves a very long time to gather requirements. And I'm maybe slightly exaggerating by the 3 years. But it may actually be longer because they had a couple of failed procurements where they tried to get it out the door and then didn't. So this was I don't know, second, third, or fourth attempt. So that requirements. Anyone done a giant 1,000-page requirements gathering thing? Anyone here? I haven't either. You have, yes. Fun, isn't it? Super fun. When you move to a model that says we're actually going to focus on the understanding of user needs and the ability to iteratively make something that works, your requirements document will sort of go in the garbage. And so they did. I think there was a lot of work that was, let's say, set aside. The time frame that we, during which we helped them rewrite the RFP, Coach America Summit was beginning of October. The RFP had to go out the day before Thanksgiving. And it did. It just looked really, really different. We held a vendor forum then on December 4th and got a different, some of the incumbents, the traditional players came to the table, and about 6 to, maybe it was a little bit more than 6 new companies also came to learn about the opportunity to bid on the work.
Like companies that had never worked or didn't have pre-existing contracts with those departments.
That's right. Yeah, and I think it's really public information, the companies that came, but some of them were companies that were born out of the healthcare.gov rescue effort. So they're development teams that have a lot of experience now working in government, but have done it, had the chance within the context of healthcare.gov to sort of do it their way and been wildly successful. Some of them, I think actually, that Pivotal came, and I don't know if they did yet. I think they were there. Yeah, and other companies that would not have otherwise come.
How was it received by sort of the traditional company players? You know, the folks who would regularly bid on these monster giant 1,000-page requirements documents.
I don't know.
All right.
I haven't talked to them.
Is it, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, did you basically just out with the old and in with a whole new set of vendors now, or are some of these vendors interested in the new system and adapting their methods?
So I can speak to that a little bit more clearly from my experience in the federal government, where do people here know what 18F is? Largely, okay. So this unit within federal government has done. In fact, we borrowed heavily in the rewrite of the RFP from work that the 18F consulting teams have done. I think so 18F, for instance, did something called the Agile BPA, Blanket Purchase Agreement, and in order to qualify for the Agile BPA, you actually had to send a team to essentially a hackathon. It wasn't a hackathon, I guess. You had to prove that you could work in an Agile way. They gave you a test case of something your team had to build, and if you could do it in a very short period of time, then you were qualified for it. And I think what you see is that the folks who came to participate in that Agile BPA were all the incumbents, and they sent the teams that they thought could achieve that goal. And I think that's part of our theory of change. Is it's not that we need to take all of government contracts and give them to a new set of people at all. It's that we need to change the rules, and if the incumbents are going to play, they need to play by the new rules. They need to have people who are trained in Agile, who understand open source, and give them those rules. They'll either come to the table or go home. But I think that they can compete on that field, and I think that they will. Does that help answer your question?
Definitely.
Yes.
I'm sure maybe you've been asked this question before, but I see that you've done some work in terms of food stamps and making it user-friendly and working with people with crime. I work on the west side of Chicago, and particularly in the North Rondo community where there's the digital divide.
Yeah.
Or something similar to that, where individuals don't have smartphones or tablets.
Yeah.
Or access to fast internet. I was wondering what Code of America is doing in terms of advocacy of bringing tech and internet to communities like that.
It's a really good question. We struggle a lot with advocacy because we find ourselves often in a position where we want to become advocates because we have information about how a system is working, for instance, that policymakers should know, that community members should know. And we don't always know the right answer. We want to be partners with government. We want to be more the carrot than the stick. We very much partner with a lot of advocacy groups in California around access to food assistance, and try to be part of that ecosystem where we're playing our role and they're playing their role, but we're understanding each other's unique strengths. to the issue of sort of access, what we've really found is that we get adoption of Get CalFresh, which is the mobile app that you saw, through partners who are already doing outreach. We do outreach. There's, we for a long time we work in a section of San Francisco where a lot of social services are. So we can just put flyers like literally on the outside of our office and have people come in and we sign them up there, or work with them in another way. But we also work through food banks, through social workers, through the other groups in the community where they are trying to, what we hear from folks who are outreach workers is, I can sign them up in the street in 5 minutes, which means I'll actually get it done, as opposed to trying to get them to come to my office, sit down in front of the computer, and spend over an hour trying to get through that form. But we are not in our own work, other than sort of, I think, trying to call attention to the problem, doing significant work on the digital divide. We do put tools in the hands of people who can help others. So thank you for the question. Yes.
I'm just curious in terms of the fellowship, in terms of sustainability. You go into these spaces that have really deeply ossified organizational cultures, and there are all these infrastructural and systemic challenges for implementing innovation. And I think there's also a consideration there in terms of top-down implementation versus community-driven ideas that are, I think, inherently in some ways more sustainable. Yeah. So, but on the other hand, having done social services my entire life, like I'm ecstatic at the projects that you're working on. It's so inspiring to me. But I'm just curious how you build in that sustainability component, or what your thoughts are around that.
Sustainability is, I think, the biggest challenge of Code for America and of the whole civic tech network. And the 3 links that Derek or Chris, or both of you talked about earlier, that is the conversation that's happening in these circles. When I talked about our projects, sort of splitting it between stuff that we're doing through the fellowship now and stuff that is our fellowship projects that we're trying to move forward. In that, you should see some of Code for America trying to move towards, let's not just like do this thing and walk away. There's sustainability within a community, there's sustainability within local government. I think as we have moved more towards social services, we're getting a little bit more of a culture and expertise around serving underserved populations. And we're really, again, targeting more and more of our work on how can we make these government programs actually effective. We're already spending the money. Let's make the money work something. Early on in Code for America, we did stuff like life status, which was also in New Orleans. This is a return trip for us. It was really it was sort of, I think, our first test case of, if we don't get the community involvement in this right, we will go nowhere. Because it was about neighbors advocating for the resources to improve or tear down properties in their neighborhoods, and that team nailed it. They did such a good job of talking to the community, understanding what the community needed, that's actually one of our most sustainable projects, and I think it absolutely proves your thesis. If it's not bottom-up support, it's going to stick.
Do you have any kind of follow-up that you do to use it work with the app, or how do you maintain that relationship so that you could go back into another project and build on success?
Another good question. We're sort of working towards that. So half of our cities for 2016 are repeat cities for us, but they're not cities where we work with them in the current year and then work with them again in the next year. And that's actually something we're working to change. It's sort of part of our business model that needs to evolve in order to get there. We've had this model of getting support from the local government and support from a local funder. And it's been really hard for us to figure out how to keep the project in scope, have that forcing function of, without anything else changing, the project's going to be done. So let's hurry up and get something done here, folks. And yet still have the, oh wait, this is really working and this is really valuable and we want to keep going, given the super long cycles of local government and frankly the super long cycles of Code for America, which is the thing we're working
How do you determine a community that you're going to send a fellowship into? I mean, I assume you get applications and not all of them receive Code for America fellows.
So we've been trying to figure out where we have the most impact and where the work can be most sustainable. Factors in both of those things include, well, does somebody want us there, right? Is the problem that the community wants to solve something where we're going to be able to build on past work? This is our 6th year, and so we're trying to figure out where we get better over time instead of like jumping to a new problem every year. We're increasingly specifying in our call for applications from local governments, we want people who want to do more of the reducing recidivism or decreasing the number of people who end up with bench warrants for their arrest, which is a sort of sister project to that one we did in Atlanta, or working on food stamps. So we're looking for partners who want to work on the same things that we want to work on. Typically, those counties in particular will tell you those things are incredibly high cost in terms of both financial and cost to the community, human cost to the community. So I think we're in good places. And we need someone who's willing to say, I will support your team in taking an approach that's going to be different. You've got to sign up for a team that's going to take an iterative, data-driven, and user-centered approach to solving this problem, which means that they're not going to start the same way and your normal technology projects will start. If we don't have someone who's willing to nurture and like create the space for that kind of work, we're not going to get anywhere. So we wouldn't take that project. Does that help?
Yeah. So you kind of have to have some commitment of some sort from the government that essentially your fellows are not going to go there and by the end of it just observe. They will have actually done something, and some of their proposals will actually see the light of day.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Mayor Ben McAdams in Salt Lake, he made criminal justice reform his top priority. He wants us to solve the problem, and very much. The costs to his county are incredibly high, and he buys that the way that we want to do it is at least worth trying. That's a great place for us to be.
What are some examples of tech projects that Code for America has worked on that I guess you would say didn't succeed as much as you expected them to, and like what you would attribute that to, what you learned from it,
Mm-hmm.
so that like other civic hackers can also take in some of those same lessons?
Yeah, so we've got a lot, we have our share of those for sure. Our very first year, we had 3 teams, one in Philly, one in Boston, and one in Seattle. And it's very interesting to go back to Seattle, having really not succeeded there in our first year, not because we didn't have a great group of fellows, they were awesome, but I think there were stakeholder management issues there was sort of clarity of focus there, and ultimately, we were trying to do a very general purpose tool, and what we've really learned over the years is that if you don't have a very specific problem that you're trying to help people solve, that is, as one of my mentors calls, a hair on fire problem, like a general purpose functionality for things like, neighbors getting together is very hard to get adoption for. Situated solutions. So having done that in Seattle, now going back and having a very, very situated problem with clear outcomes and clear partners is a great do-over. I think in other cases, we did a project in Albuquerque the year before last that also kind of never really shipped, and I think it was it struggled to find the right thing to do, the right project that would really have impact on the problem they were trying to solve, and that probably accounts for a lot of the times where we kind of swing and miss. You know us, though. What are the other reasons we swing and miss?
I don't know. I don't know enough about failed projects, so I'm curious.
We very often end up with projects that succeed in their local context, but don't spread to other contexts, and that's not a failure, but it is something we're trying to figure out how how more of these things can replicate. Yes.
Kind of skipped over the slide, so I don't know if you want to talk about this at all, but you had something about sometimes policy changes.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering about examples of that. And
Mhm.
like the food stamp sign up, I can imagine somebody saying, oh, if we make food hard, we're not gonna have to pay for so much.
Right.
So I'm not sure, I don't know what goes on, so I just wondered, what you find.
So there's sort of two questions in that. The second one is sort of the, does government make it hard to sign up for services on purpose? And the answer to that is, in California, is no. I can say that really confidently, and I'll tell you why it's no in California particularly, but I think it should be no everywhere. It's federal money that flows into your local community for free. Like, nobody doesn't want that. Like, there are certainly places in the country where there are ideological or cultural issues with people getting, but like we frankly haven't really worked in those places. In California, the reason people don't get food stamps isn't because people are trying not to have them, it's because the process is broken. You wanted me to speak a little bit more to policy changes?
Yeah, so I'm imagining like, as you're building something, you realize, hey, why were we doing this anyway? Or, I don't know, I just was curious.
So there's policy that we hear about in the news, and then there's like policy on the ground.
Just to implement.
Yeah, I mean, when I say, I mean it really all of them, but like the concrete examples I can give you, for instance, are like on-demand interviews. So one of the biggest reasons people apply for food stamps and don't get it is it used to be you had to go in an office and sit. Now they'll actually call you, so you don't have to come in. That's great. But they send you a letter, when I have screenshots of it, and we collect all these letters. And they say, I'm gonna call you Tuesday the 23rd at 3 p.m. If you don't pick up the phone Tuesday the 23rd at 3 p.m., you start over at the very beginning. Like literally, you've got to go reapply. The regulatory framework allows for on-demand interviews where you could just like call in and do your interview with a caseworker who happened to be available. And somebody in the back asked earlier about advocacy. Like this is a case where like we want to advocate for the policy change to take advantage of that. To change so that you're doing on-demand interviews or at least reschedulable interviews. And we'll probably get there, but where we start is by just playing back the data to the county welfare directors and saying, did you know that X% of your people are falling off because they didn't pick up the phone, or you didn't even send them a letter about when the interview was until the interview was already passed? Let's fix this problem. And then we're in a dialogue around a policy change that they could do to have better operations. But those are the kinds of policies that don't make the front page. That's not what people think of when they think of government policy. But those little policies matter a lot.
Maybe last question.
I don't think there are. Oh, one more. Okay.
So it seems like the governments you're working with already have a terrible problem. They're willing to try something new that's agile, data-driven. I'm curious if there's any part of your organization that goes off, tries to find more of the stallion, like old school way of doing things, and knocking on the door, being aggressive, and being like, this can change, this is how we can do it.
The only example that I have of that is the child welfare thing. We were very vocal. But we did happen, one of the things I would say is that, and I think probably all of you will immediately recognize this as a very true statement. It is not monolithic, it is not homogeneous. In any government institution, there are people already there who are like, damn, this does not work, could we please find a different way? And there are people who are like, this is how we want to go, we're not gonna do it a different way. And there's not, these institutions are large. I challenge you to find an institution where there's not already a change agent. I also challenge you to find one where there aren't people who are risk averse and do not want anything to change. yes, we happen to be working in the ones where the mayor stood up and said, please come in. In that case, we did a paper for the state of California saying that procurement won't work, you shouldn't put it out there. And initially they said, thanks so much for your recommendations, we totally agree, but we're moving forward with this as planned because we don't have another alternative. That's when we got all nutty on them and said, no, we're calling a bunch of other stakeholders, we're talking to people at the federal government who frankly are paying for this project. So you've got to understand, anything that happens at the state or county level, the money is coming from the feds. And if you can, the feds happen to have just realized over the past year and a half, 2.5 years, that waterfall method doesn't work in a very painful way. So there happen to be a lot of people in DC who are willing to make a phone call to someone at the state or county level saying, actually, that $500 million we just gave you, we want you to use it on an agile project. It's just not that simple. It's about finding the right people, bringing it to the people who are concerned about the change, and helping them understand that the risks are lower than they think in the new way and higher than they think in the old way. That's what you do. So yes, we do sometimes go knocking quite loudly, especially when it has to do with something like Chelva. I think that's all the time. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry, Forge, you don't get the privilege. Sorry. Thank you, Jen.
Best question
So we're going to shift over to the civic hacking portion of the evening. For those of you who are brand new, we have sort of 2 different tracks that we have for the different breakout groups. Before I get into those though, our model is anybody can start a breakout group. So we're gonna list the ones we already know about. If you have one you wanna start, it could just be an idea, it could just be a project that you want some help with, raise your hand and pitch it to the group. We'll go through the ones we have. They're broken out into learning groups and working groups. Actually, I forgot to do this. Raise your hand if this is your very first Chai Hack Night. Hey, what's up? Yay! So for you folks, Christopher has an orientation that is mandatory. No, just kidding. It's optional. Tell us about Civic Tech 101, Christopher.
So if this is your first time here, if the words open data, open source, Ruby, Python are new to you, don't worry, we're going to cover it all. We're going to be in 111 North Canal, which is the conference room with the giant door. We go over what is open data, what is open source, and the importance of community organizing in our work. It's designed to be about 15 minutes, so you can still have time to bounce around to some of the other groups.
Great. Moving on down the line, Code Clinic. I think Carl's here, so is Renee, right? Yeah, hey. Tell us about Code Clinic, gentlemen.
If you are teaching yourself how to code, or if you're working through a bug or a problem, Code Clinic is a place to ask questions. You can find me or Carl Vogel. We welcome those no experience or with experience to come find us. Find me by the big screen or find Carl Vogel.
If we're not in a room, we're just sort of circulating around. Code Clinic has a pretty good record of getting people over whatever they're trying to debug through the problem, like a second pair of eyes just needs to be better. So that find us.
Excellent, thank you. Mob programming, I don't think Nick is here. Are there mob programming leaders here tonight? No? Okay, we'll skip it this week. Dolphin Tank meets at the last Tuesday of every month, so it's the first Tuesday of this month, so it'll be in a couple weeks. But for those of you who've never heard of it before, the idea is like Shark Tank, but nice. And the idea is if you have an idea for a civic application that you want to get some feedback on as far as feasibility or how to do it, there's a group of people who can use their sage advice and give it to you and give you some constructive feedback in a nice way. This is another alternating one. If you are interested in learning how to, it's not meeting this week, but it'll be next week. If you're interested in learning how to file a Freedom of Information request, it is actually a law that's like if you ask the government for data in a very specific way, they are legally required to respond to you. Brandon Smith is the guy who leads it, and he's the journalist who successfully got the Laquan McDonald video released by the city. So he knows a little bit about how to do that. So if you have questions about how to do that and go through that process, Brandon will run that session next week. Moving on down to the working groups, access to justice. Kulsum, Come on down.
Hi, I'm Kulsum, and I'm the leader of the Access to Justice work group. We're currently working on re-entry and recidivism issues. So in Illinois, 1 in 2 people will be reincarcerated in 3 years. And I think there's sort of like 3 levels of analysis or work that we're doing. One is reaching out to nonprofit organizations and social service organizations working with re-entering citizens. And what we've found, not surprisingly, is that there's not much communication or coordination due to lack of resources. So we've actually gotten specific requests to go out and do data and technology presentations at different organizations, helping folks think through how might they use data and technology to improve their services and their work. The second piece is we're starting to work directly with re-entering citizens. Christy from somewhere actually this weekend met with a group which we very serendipitously found who created this re-entry guide. And so we were only able to find 2, and I like speaking way too much.
Hey, keep going.
I'm just so excited. We found only 2 resources. One is a re-entry guide, and it's like a PDF that it's really difficult to sort of navigate all the pages of it, and then a really outdated website. And even the organizations listed in those resources don't know about the resources. Like they're listed in there and they don't know they exist. So one of them was created, the guide was created by a group actually of re-entering citizens and an organization based out of University of Illinois Champaign called the Education Justice Project, which runs classes in prisons. So we're going to be hopefully working with them. I'm so excited, and to revamp the website and maybe integrate the guide on the website to hopefully maybe create an app or something useful that is more responsive to their needs and will address this problem.
Excellent, thank you, Kulsum. Beach water quality. I don't think Tom is here. Is anybody from that project working on that one? Oh?
Yeah. So the beaches in Chicago sometimes have E. coli in them. Yeah, contact. That's not great, and we want to be able to predict when that's going to happen. So we're building predictive models. Right now, we're pretty much full steam ahead in the modeling phase, looking about like time series classifications and regressions and things like that. That's not interesting. Coming down, so we'll probably be in, I think it's called the high 5 room. It is pretty far down that way.
Great. And to add on to that, just so you know, this is actually a project that's done officially in partnership with the City of Chicago. So it's going to be the official, if it ends up being better than the model they have, will be the official model that they use to issue warnings to people. So there's a current model that they have that's apparently not great. And so the idea is to improve on that. So this is an opportunity to actually have the thing you build here, like being taken into use by the city. Black Tech Mecca, Fabian?
Hello, everybody. So at Black Tech Mecca, we're focused on being able to build a thriving Black Tech ecosystem here in the city. And so what that really comes down to is how can we make it easier for the Black community to navigate all of the resources that Chicago Tech ecosystem has to offer. So we're building a platform to help do that. And we're building it on Ruby on Rails, an awesome team that's been helping out. And right now, we have a solid roundup of developers, and lucky to have Bill Allen and his Agile product management help. But we're also looking for designers and front-end folks that can help us make an awesome user experience. So feel free to join us. I know we normally meet at one of the rooms down there, but I'll be standing right here if anyone wants to try to find out more info.
Excellent, thank you. Education, I don't know if Josh, I haven't seen Josh here. I think I'll skip that group for now. The Teach Tech Task Force.
Yeah, so I'm Andy, I'm representing TQ. So the project that we're working on right now is primarily in support of Chicago Public Schools teachers who are teaching computer science. Many of them for the first time, many of them in alignment with the new graduation requirement that passed last week.
It passed?
It passed, yeah. So for those that haven't heard, now high school students graduating from CPS will have to take a credit of computer science.
Wow. Wow.
So we have a lot of teachers who are jumping on board with this. Many of whom, or almost all of whom, are not CS credentialed or anything like this. So for the next few years, until this is fully enforced, there are going to be various patchwork bits of curriculum floating around, as well as the official curriculum that we outlined. So a lot of these things are great. A lot of these things are online. A lot of them are not really organized in a way that makes it easy to figure out, can I do this in my classroom next week? Can I do this in my classroom tomorrow? So we're building a tool that organizes, lesson material basically broadly by subject area, grade level, stuff required to do it basically, and making that easily searchable. So if you're interested in looking at that, we're going to be meeting up in one of these side rooms. The app is built on Rails, so if you have experience there, it's great. We're also about to start user testing, so if you have ideas there, we're refining our plans. Yeah, so please check that task force.
Excellent, thank you.
And we have one more.
Oh, yes, Eve.
Started a new initiative with Teach Tech Task Force, which is to create a space for youth at Chai. And we'll be developing some youth-focused projects that will help us do things like test map and make sure it's working well for teachers on CPS, documenting access to technology, education, and digital tools in schools, and thinking about this larger problem of technology in school reform. So if you're interested in talking about youth leadership at Chai, then you can join us, Lisa and Cam, here.
Excellent, thank you. Chicago nursing home search.
Everyone's favorite. Nursing home.
Wait, I thought procurement with Cook County was everyone's favorite. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
For 8 months, I've been moaning about the quality of Medicare data on nursing homes. Yesterday, I talked to one of the people that makes that data, and turns out they have even less faith in it than I do. Fascinating and horrifying things, such as nursing homes are required to report if someone falls and then is seriously injured. Out of every 100 residents who are sent to the hospital after a fall, only 30 are reported.
Wow.
And a whole bunch of other fun stuff like that. So if you would like to help solve this problem, come see us. We'll be in a teeny tiny room.
All right, thank you, Joel. Modeling pension reform in Illinois, pension group? Yeah.
I'm Dennis. If you're interested in the $110 billion that Illinois owes the pension funds in the state of Illinois, we've got a group that's modeling the pension funds just to make it a little bit more transparent and ask a lot of hard questions. We're going to have the communication piece go into it. I don't know if anybody else in the group is here tonight. So if you're interested, just find me. I'll either be here or
Excellent, thank you. Mapping the demand for better transit. I'm not sure if John is here, but Stephen, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so we want to find out where buses run slower than they should be, are running more crowded than they should be, so that we can advocate for some changes in the way the streets are designed, so that buses can move a little faster. Buses are the backbone of Chicago's transit, carry 900,000 people a day, and trains will carry 600,000. So we've got the school data set that shows where people get on and off the bus. So we know about how many people are on the bus at any time. Not in real time, but at a historical look. So we need to be, we'll be meeting in one of the rooms with a TV in that direction.
Cool. Thanks, Stephen. Another transportation group, Project Pavement. Hey.
So we're working on an app that makes it easier to find bike routes that are less stressful than, say, Google Maps would give you, using factors like pavement data and traffic. And we're not going to be meeting tonight, but we will be back next week. So if you're interested, try to meet soon or finding it.
Great, thank you. And then last listed group, Ride With Me. Is anybody from the Ride With Me team here? I think Robert's not. Okay, we'll skip that one for now. So like I said, if you have a project you want to start, a group you want to start, you can raise your hand now and we'll call on you. Right there in the back.
Hey everybody, my name is Cameron. Once again, I am a youth media outreach coordinator. And my project's called Hotline Beats. I am making an app that will allow civilians to have a voice when the officers are patrolling their community. So if you'd like to help out or just give me any of your ideas for it, we will be free to help.
Great, thank you. Others? Oh, Kathy?
Hey everyone, I'm Kathy. I want to get some user feedback on a database interactive thingy about jobs in the UK. So if you feel like volunteering in some capacity tonight, but you also don't want to use that much brain power, come see me. Keep your eyeballs.
Great. Anybody else with the group? Yeah.
I'm working on a Twitter bot for